Today we're going to go pick up a new engine for the This has happened a little bit sooner than I thought that it would. I was hoping to do this maybe next winter or whatever for like a winter project, but these engines that I picked up here for these cars are becoming extremely rare, very hard to find, and it was a pretty good deal how I found it here. And it was local actually, believe it or not. So I was able to go and pick one up, and they're people that I know, so it kind of helps out a lot better than getting something from a stranger. So we're gonna go ahead and get on the road here. I'm not gonna film too much at the shop where I'm picking it up because I just want to respect his privacy, and I don't want to film in his shop or whatever in case he doesn't want me to. It's just a nice thing to do. I don't want to put camera in their face, so we're gonna go pick that up, and then we're gonna try to get it here and back it in and try and unload it and see what we can do.
I'm trying my hardest to find silver in clouds while pinning them down. I'm flying.
Now I gotta figure out how to get this thing out myself. It's got a transmission attached to it too, so it's gonna be kind of challenging with this engine crane here.
When I'm feeling strange already, why do I miss you the most when I'm feeling afraid? Do you feel the same? Do you feel the same?
Now that we have the engine out of the truck and on the ground, I'm gonna try to attempt to get the transmission taken off of the back of it. As you can see here, it's got a automatic transmission on the back. We will not be needing that. So I'm gonna try and get that off, and then I'll lift this thing up, and then I'll get a engine stand and put it on it as well, so I can talk about what we're gonna do with this engine.
Feeling strange already. Why do I miss you the most when I'm feeling afraid? Do you feel the same?
Now that I've got most of the stuff detached from the trans here, like the harness and everything else, I left 2 bolts up top there so the trans wouldn't completely fall out, but I have to get all the torque converter bolts. Since this is an automatic transmission, I have to get the torque converters bolts out of the window underneath of it. Once I get all those, I should be able to take those 2 last bolts off of bell housing, and then I should be able to slide this off. So now that we got the trans taken off of it, as you've seen there, the torque converter actually got stuck on where the pilot bearing goes for the manual transmission. So I just had to take a little bit of a pry bar and it popped right off. I placed the torque converter back into the transmission in case somebody wants to buy this unit here. They can have the torque converter with it. We're gonna go ahead and crank this thing up and see where we need to bolts for the engine stand so we can rotate it and get some of this wiring harness off, because this wiring harness is actually for an automatic too as well. It's tied on in with it, and we won't be using this wiring harness anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and take this flex plate off too as well, because the manual transmissions actually don't use this, they use a flywheel. The bolts up to the torque converter on the manual or on the automatic, and then with the manual they have a big flywheel here, and that's what the disc rides off of. So I'm going to take that off and ask the person whoever's taking this transmission if they want to take that flex plate too as well. So might as well get it off and out of the way. Okay, so we got everything stripped down as you've seen in the time lapse there. Now that we have it on a stand, we're just gonna go over a few things that we're gonna go do to it. Obviously, as I was saying, the Supra that I had bought came with a naturally aspirated engine. That means there's no turbos, it's all just free air. That is the 2JZ GE. This is a 2JZ GTE. That means that this is the turbo version, as there's some 2JZs out there that are non-VVTi and some that are VVTi. So I got the 2JZ GTE VVTi. So this is one of the really popular, very hard to find these now with low KM and in good shape. These can handle a ton of power, minor mods to them. You can get them up into the 1,000 horsepower range, no problem with these, which is sweet. That's why everybody loves these and everybody swaps these engines into other cars. So my thoughts and my goals with this is to delete the twin turbos here on the side and delete those. Obviously put a big single. Twin turbos, you know, back in the day they needed the twins to have fast spool up time and everything else. Nowadays with the technology of single turbos and everything else, you can get a decent sized single that spools up almost equivalent to what the two twins do on this setup here. Obviously, to simplify everything, we're going to do the single turbo. We're going to get rid of all this stuff here, and it makes it so much easier. As well as I'm going to look into what cams to get for this too, maybe some 272s, so wake it up a little bit more. Back to what I was saying too with the turbo spooling is that since this is a VVTi engine, the VVTi on the intake side, so it's only VVTi on the intake side, it's not VVTi on the exhaust side, but the VVTi helps with spooling a bigger turbo as well, as opposed to a non-VVTi. So it helps with that variable cam timing. VVTi obviously stands for variable valve timing or variable cam timing. This is the layout here. I got it from a person that I know from a person, and they claim that this has 50,000 K on it, which is very low KM. The inside of the engine looks very clean. The rest of the engine looks very clean too. There's not really any corrosion or anything on it, which makes me feel really good. Either way, I'm gonna tear all this down, take all this stuff off, change all the seals in this engine, and then we're gonna have a nice refreshed engine to go into this car. Obviously, people can turbo the 2JZ GE engine, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but if you want big horsepower, you know, the reliability on it and everything, and a good turbo kit, the VVTi engine is a must for this car. The way I thought about this getting into the Supra is if I were to buy the Supra with this platform in it and the 6-speed in it and everything else, this has a 5-speed in it, but the 6-speed, they'd be upwards about $110,000. Me, I like building cars, so I was able to get into the Supra about half that with buying a GE and something that needed a little bit more work on it, which is what I wanted. And this was my plan all along. Everybody always says, oh, but by the time you buy all this stuff and everything else, you could have had a mint one and everything else, but that's not fun. I don't like to buy something that's already done or somebody else's project. I like to do everything myself. So this is my way of going in and doing it all myself and putting it exactly how I want it. And you know, I know exactly how everything's ran and how wires are ran and everything else, because it's me that did it. You know, there's a lot of people out there that want the Supra and they'll just buy it. That's great, but this is what I like to do, like I was saying. So this is going to be a very fun project for me to tear this down. Never in a million years I would have thought that I would have a spare 2JZ GTE engine that's worth a pile of money nowadays sitting in my garage with a Supra and all these other projects that I have. I've worked very hard to do all this stuff and try and make content. I know my YouTube channel isn't crazy popular right now, but that's not the point. Like I always say, I do this for fun. If I can film some videos along the way and make it a good time, and 700 and some of you guys enjoy watching them, then that's pretty cool. I just think of it that way. What we'll be doing with this engine is, like I said, we'll be tearing it all down, getting rid of all this stuff, pulling it all right down to the bare block, pulling the head off seals, like everything else. I haven't decided what single turbo kit to go with yet, but when it does come in, I can start bolting up the manifold and then a few other things, get this stuff off, get some of this other stuff off, get it powder coated and repainted as I'm doing with the rest of the car. Seeing one of these in person is pretty cool. Used to seeing all these engines and stuff on YouTube videos and stuff, but when you see it in person, it's a pretty cool feeling, and having one and sitting in front of you, pretty cool as well, knowing that these are pretty rare and they're becoming very hard to find. It's cool because we have the LS platform in the 350Z. We got the 2J platform, which is JDM's most, you know, the loved engine that all JDM guys really like, and guys are swapping these into like pretty much everything just because of how reliable it is with the cast iron block and the amount of power that you can put to it. You got the Coyote over here that's supercharged. So we got the three, in my opinion, main engines that everybody seems to go with. You know, everybody Coyote swaps something, everybody LS swaps something, or everybody 2J swaps something. So we got a good horsepower, like 550, 530, 5 horsepower naturally aspirated over there. Hoping, my goal is with this one about 1,000 crank horsepower, so that's probably about 800 wheel or 750 wheel. This setup, and then we have the Mustang that's 800 and some crank horsepower and 675 wheel, which is cool. These are all going to be really high horsepower cars, and I'm excited to see what it's going to feel like with a turbo car. I've never owned a turbo car before. This will definitely open my eyes to the whole turbo side of things. I've always, you know, thinking that superchargers are way more simple and everything, which I still in my mind think they are sometimes, but when you do the right setup with turbos and the right controllers and the right standalone ECUs, you have no problem making power with these. So anyway, that's the lowdown of what I'm going to be doing this engine here. I figured I'd just film a video of me going to go pick it up and putting it on a stand, getting it all ready. Any of you guys know I'm willing to ship parts as well. If you guys are wanting anything off of this, let's say the twin turbo setup, fairly low kilometers on it like I was saying, then I'd be happy to ship them or sell them to you, as well as that automatic transmission that was attached to it. So Toyota had this engine in a lot of other vehicles around there, like Lexus. Like Lexus and Toyota are the same. So to be able to see this in person and in my shop here, ready to go, it's makes me pretty excited to see what's to come. The Supra is looking really good. We got the wheels and we got the big brakes on it. We got the suspension on it. Stay tuned, guys, for some more Supra content in the future and seeing what we're gonna do with this engine. I can hardly wait. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, subscribe, hit the like button. I'll catch you in the next one.